It's the afternoon, and the thing you're supposed to be doing is right there. You've known about it for hours. It's not even hard. And yet, you're on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through something you won't remember, feeling that low, familiar hum of guilt in the background, telling yourself you'll start in 5 minutes. You've done this 100 times, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice says the same word it always does: lazy. You're just being lazy. But here's what nobody told you. That couch-locked feeling, that heavy resistance to getting up and starting, is not a character flaw, and it's not weakness. It is one of the most precisely engineered survival instincts your body owns, doing the exact job that 2 million years of evolution built it to do. By the end of this video, you will not be able to call yourself lazy in the same way ever again. And the reason starting a task is always the hardest part is going to turn out to be the strangest twist of all. Hold on to that question, because we're coming back to it. Let's begin with the thing everyone gets wrong about laziness. We treat it as a moral failure, a defect of willpower, something to be ashamed of. But evolution does not care about your to-do list, and it does not care about your character. Evolution cares about one thing above almost everything else: energy, specifically calories. And to understand why you feel lazy, you have to understand that for virtually the entire history of your species, calories were the single scarcest, most precious, most desperately fought over resource in your ancestors' lives. Think about what a calorie actually meant for almost all of human existence. There were no refrigerators, no grocery stores, no drive-thrus. Every single unit of energy your ancestors put into their bodies had to be hunted, gathered, dug up, or chased down, often at real physical risk. And frequently it wasn't enough. Starvation wasn't an abstract fear. It was a regular visitor. In a world like that, your body evolved to treat energy the way a person lost in the desert treats their last bottle of water. You do not pour it out for fun. You guard every drop. This is the core idea behind the work of Harvard evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman, who wrote an entire book called Exercised, essentially demolishing the myth that humans are naturally built to want physical activity. His argument is blunt and a little uncomfortable. We did not evolve to exercise. We evolved to avoid unnecessary exertion whenever we possibly could, because burning calories you didn't strictly need to burn was, for most of history, a genuinely dangerous thing to do. Every unnecessary movement was fuel spent that your body might desperately need later for something that actually mattered. And what actually mattered? Your body has a limited energy budget, and it has to divide those precious calories between competing, non-negotiable demands: growing and repairing your tissues, fighting off infection, storing fat for the lean times that were always coming, and above all, reproduction, the one thing evolution truly optimizes for. Every calorie you wasted wandering around or fidgeting for no reason was a calorie stolen from healing a wound, or fighting a fever, or having a child. So the body evolved a simple, ruthless rule that it still runs today, right now, inside you. If you do not need to move, don't. Rest. Conserve. Save it for when it counts, which means that the ancestor lounging in the shade, doing absolutely nothing, was not failing. He was following the strategy that kept humans alive. The restless one who couldn't sit still, who burned energy pacing and moving for no survival reason, was quietly wasting the exact resource that decided who made it through the next famine. Over thousands of generations, the instinct to rest whenever rest was possible didn't get bred out of us. It got baked in. Laziness, in other words, isn't a bug that slipped through evolution's cracks. It's a feature evolution worked very hard to install. Now here's where it gets more precise, and where we start to answer that question I told you to hold on to. Your brain isn't just vaguely biased toward rest. It runs an actual, measurable calculation every single time you face a task, and it happens faster than you can consciously notice. Neuroscientists call it effort discounting. Deep in your brain, in a region called the striatum, running on the chemical dopamine, your brain is constantly weighing two things against each other: the reward you might get from an action and the effort that action will cost you. And here's the key: effort itself is treated as a cost, a price, something to be subtracted from the value of the reward. Psychologists call the broader version of this the principle of least effort, and it's one of the most reliable findings about human and animal behavior there is. Given a choice, living things overwhelmingly select the option that gets the reward for the smallest possible expenditure of energy, physical or mental. Your brain is, at its core, a machine for getting the most while spending the least. It is not built to admire hard work. It is built to avoid it wherever the math allows. So when you look at that task you've been avoiding, your brain silently runs the numbers. The effort feels high, immediate, and certain. The reward feels distant, delayed, and a little uncertain. And when the cost column outweighs the reward column, your brain does something remarkable. It essentially vetoes the action. It doesn't feel like a veto. It feels like I'll do it later. It feels like I'm just not in the mood. It feels like laziness. But underneath that fuzzy feeling is a cold, ancient piece of arithmetic concluding that the energy isn't worth spending yet. And this, finally, is why starting is always the hardest part. Think about the shape of that calculation. Before you begin, the entire cost of the task sits in front of you, full size, immediate, and certain, while the reward is still far away at the finish line, distant and abstract. That is the worst possible ratio your brain's effort calculator can see. Cost is at its maximum. Reward feels at its minimum. Of course it vetoes. But the moment you actually start, even a little, the math quietly begins to flip. The finish line gets closer. The reward becomes more real, more immediate. The remaining effort shrinks. Which is why, so often, the hardest part of any task is the first 90 seconds, and why, once you're moving, continuing feels strangely easy. You didn't suddenly become disciplined. You just changed the numbers your brain was looking at. So we have a beautiful, efficient system. An ancient instinct to conserve energy, enforced by a brain that treats effort as a cost and vetoes anything that isn't clearly worth it. In the world this system evolved for, it was close to perfect. But now, here comes the twist that changes everything. And it's the reason that same brilliant system is quietly making you miserable. That entire machinery was designed for a world that no longer exists. It was built for an environment where calories were scarce and hard to get, and where movement was not optional. It was survival. In that world, an instinct that said, conserve energy, avoid pointless effort, was flawless, because you were forced to move constantly just to eat. And any energy you managed to save was a genuine advantage. But look at the world you actually live in now. Calories are not scarce. They are everywhere, cheap, engineered to be irresistible, available within arm's reach at every moment. And movement is no longer forced on you at all. You can get everything you need, food, work, entertainment, connection, without standing up. For the first time in the history of life, the ancient instinct to rest and conserve has been unleashed in an environment with no natural brakes on it. This is what scientists call evolutionary mismatch, and it is the real villain of this story. The instinct isn't broken. It's working perfectly. It's just running in the wrong century. The exact same energy conservation program that once kept your ancestors alive now glues you to a chair. Whispers do less. Save energy. Don't bother in a world where you no longer need to save energy at all, and where the resting it's so proud of protecting is slowly making you sick. Your laziness is not a personal failure. It is a 2-million-year-old survival instinct that never got the memo that the famine is over. And that reframe matters more than it might seem, because of the guilt. We inherited an idea, reinforced for centuries, that laziness is a moral defect, one of the great sins, a sign of a weak and unworthy character. But you are not weak when you feel that pull toward rest. You are feeling the single most successful survival strategy your species ever evolved, firing exactly as designed. The guilt, the shame, the harsh little voice calling you lazy, that's the part that's actually misfiring. punishing you for obeying an instinct that kept your entire lineage alive long enough to produce you. So here's where this becomes genuinely useful. Right now, today. Once you understand that laziness is really your brain running a cost-benefit calculation that overweights immediate effort, you stop fighting it with willpower, which almost never works, and you start outsmarting it instead. You don't need to become a different, more disciplined person. You just need to change the numbers your brain is looking at. Make the first step so small, so trivially easy, that the effort cost drops below the veto threshold. Don't tell yourself to clean the whole house. Tell yourself to pick up one thing. Don't sit down to write the report, open the document, and type one sentence. The instinct isn't your enemy. It's just a very old accountant that only understands one language. Make the next action cheap enough, and it will let you through. So the next time you're on that couch, feeling the weight of the thing you're avoiding, and that quiet voice calls you lazy, I want you to hear it differently. That feeling is not proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that something inside you is working exactly the way 2 million years of survival designed it to. You are not lazy. You are running ancient, efficient, life-saving software in a world it was never built for. And the moment you stop fighting that software and start speaking its language, everything about getting started gets easier. So tell me in the comments, what's the one task your brain keeps vetoing? The one you always put off? Name it. Because the first step to outsmarting the instinct is catching it in the act.